Hello, and welcome to this video on an alternate World War I in Adidas Pro's universe. What if civilization started over? Without further delay, let me introduce you to the world of Aurum Imperium. Britain, the Red Island. It is called this due to the amount of wars that have been fought there and the blood that has been lost in the process. 1 year before the start of the First World War, the Kingdom of the Midlands begun a small-scale Cold War with Hibernia over the British states. Yet when the south of the Midlands broke away, unlike in our timeline where the Midlands let them be free, here the government in Newcastle decides to send in the Royal Army. Meanwhile, the rebel government in Oxford calls Hibernia to ask them if they can join Hibernia. Hibernia accepts and declares war on the Midlands. The Midlands go to southern Wales, who is eager to get back at Hibernia, and South Wales joins the war. A coup in Cornwall leads to them also joining Hibernia in their war effort. Newcastle makes an effort to swing Scotland into their war, but just begins a civil war there instead. As Hibernia, unlike the other war participants, are a great power and have one of the largest colonial empires, the war is quickly over and Hibernia and Cornwall unite the Isles, ignoring the Dutch provinces in the southeast. On the Russo-Ukrainian border, gunfire is exchanged due to a misunderstanding of where the border was. Ukraine sees massacre of their troops on their own soil by the Russians with great hatred. They decide enough is enough and declare war. With the circular powers joining the war against Russia, old enemies start to aid Russia. Two of them are Mesopotamia and Jordan, who look to reform the Mesopotamian Empire. As they attack the Hittite, they face Cretan general Emimirius Laurin, who in our timeline massively reformed the Cretan military and became the face of the nation, but died on a sinking ship going to a meeting in the Ukrainian capital. Yet here, he leads the circular powers to victory in Arabia. When Persia joins the war, the writing on the wall becomes clear to Mesopotamia. Even Caucasia falls as the circular powers overrun them to keep their supplies going from Ukraine to the front. An explosion in the capital of Arabia, likely by an anarchist group against the ideas of a reformed old empire, blows up a portion of the Senate building. This explosion, although causing minimal casualties, is enough of a distraction for Arabia to keep them out of the war until the Mesopotamian Jordanese capitulation. A coup in Belarus leads to them joining the circular powers and cede a northern strip to Ukraine. As the Russian capital falls, and the areas bordering Central Asia fall as well, Russia capitulates and is incorporated into Ukraine. Before the Arab powers fall though, Rome goes to war in Italy and drags the triangular powers and the Farmers' Union into the war as well. But the triangular powers mostly focus on Rome and ignore Arabia, even refusing to share food supplies with the Arabian nations. This leads to the largest source of Arab food becoming the Korean Empire, who even began to give minor lend-lease to Mesopotamia and Jordan. Ukraine cannot let this slide and convinces Amur to launch an invasion of Korea with Ukrainian support. Amur and Ukraine split Siberia to open up a supply route between them. Eventually Korea falls, re-cementing Amur's position as a great East Asian power that was lost since the earliest days of East Asian civilization. In the West, the Dutch Empire joins the triangular powers. They saw Korea, Arabia, and even Russia fall to the Ukrainian rampage and see that they must intervene. The Pakistani Empire also decides to join the war to assist the Netherlands, but find that that is the final nail in their coffin. The Indian oligarchs break away from Pakistan, and Pakistan leaves the war giving Persia some minor gains, and giving Alaska to Amur. With the Dutch, French, Spanish and Catalonian colonies having to give supplies and manpower to a war they never wished to fight, whilst gaining nothing in return, revolt. In particular, the quite populated South American and African colonies form their own nations, whilst North America sees anarchist movements rise up. Amsterdam and the other triangular governments cannot handle this instability, and the full Ukrainian, Amurite, Cretan, and Roman armies assault Western Europe, capitulating Catalonia, capturing the Dutch Mediterranean coast. Ukraine makes major advancements in the Netherlands, reaching the Elbe River. Seeing so much losses, the governments of Spain and the Netherlands agree on peace, angering France. But eventually they agree to sit down and discuss peace as well. The peace, known as the Treaty of Rome, was humiliating. The new African and American nations that declared their independence were to be respected as such, and that what didn't declare its independence, mainly Dutch North America and Spanish West Africa, was split between the victorious powers. A Moor got the Dutch Pacific territories, becoming something like the Rome of the Pacific. Poland even gained a colony in Western Africa. Caucasia and Russia got annexed by Ukraine, Prussia was partitioned, Rome annexed Libya, Egypt, Louisiana, Slovenia, parts of the Farmers' Union, the Dutch Mediterranean coast, and the Balearic Islands. Loire got independence and Brittany regained their exclave, despite remaining neutral in the war. Mesopotamia was reunited under the Hittites. The Farmers' Union got partitioned and Poland got major gains from the Dutch Empire. Lastly, South Sweden got independence from the Netherlands. And the Copenhagen Isles, as well as a small coastal strip around Malmö, went to Ukraine. With the Treaty of Rome, Ukrainian dominance over the world seemed secured. But this could not have been more wrong. Immediately after the war, an Ukraino-Mesopotamian split would occur, as Greece, Persia, and Crete would side with Mesopotamia while Rome and Amur would stick with Ukraine. Yet these two were not the only two blocks left. Hibernia, standing now as the only Western European nation unaffected by the war, excluding Portugal, would form their own alliance, the Arrow Accord. They would be joined by Chile and Tanzania. Chile would guide the former Spanish lands in South America and French Canada to become stable nations with Hibernian help, and Tanzania would do the same in Africa, whilst directly annexing Pakistani Madagascar. Ireland and Tanzania would jointly start colonizing Australia, to show that they still mattered internationally. China and Ukraine would do the same, dividing the continent. Speaking of China, they would also start doing some shenanigans. They would move north and south and annex the smaller states in the area, as well as intervening in Mexico to install a friendly government. Now, there are two more alliances to be discussed. The Octagon Axis, which is just Novgorod, Finland, and Estonia, was established as to protect these nations from Ukraine. It is mostly just Novgorod dominating over Finland and Estonia, though. Yet Novgorod could not have expected that they would be joined by Montana and Portugal. Portuguese North America had recently declared independence and sided with China, and Portugal had tensions with everyone else, so they joined the Octagon Axis. The last alliance, and probably the most interesting one of them all, would be founded in Arabia. Defeat in WW1 definitively ended all plans for an old empire. So they took a new approach. It was clear to Arabia now. Mesopotamia could not reunite the empire, so it was up to Arabia to do it instead. It began a new ideology. An ideology where the state is everything. An ideology that doubles down on a nation's superiority. An ideology known as fascism. The danger of fascism became clear in India, where the Pakistani civil war had been going on since WW1. There was the central government under the monarchy, and the oligarchs just like in OTL, but there was one thing different. A few of the oligarchs gave their power to one oligarch, who turned into a megalomaniac. The rest of the oligarchs denounced them, giving way for fascism to become the third player in the Pakistani civil war. Eventually, the fascists consolidated India and made peace with the monarchy, who fled to Pakistan proper. And India joined Arabia's new alliance, the Gear Axis. In France, discontent festered. They saw the Spanish and Dutch governments as the reason they lost the war. All they needed were reinforcements from their colonies, and they could have won. But because of their allies they lost. Then, France did what it has always done best, revolution. The people overthrew the government and established an ultranationalist state. Catalonia followed suit. And one by one the former triangular powers fell to ultranationalism. In the Netherlands, a brutal civil war saw the monarchy being exiled to Iceland. Without anyone else to help them, the Dutch Empire joined the Arrow Accord. And the former triangular powers joined Arabia and the Gear Axis, and Vietnam followed suit. In Norway, a fascist party was voted into office. But the Arrows could not afford to see the fascist expand more than they already had and send in their military after Norway declared war on Sweden. With Arrow help, Sweden won and conquered Norway, and Sweden joined the Arrow Accord. In Asia, a wave of conquest by Ukraine took place. Nanestia was annexed and Central Asia fell into all-out chaos. Ukrainian annexation of Central Asia intensified world tension and increased likeliness of a second global conflict. The World of Aurum Imperium tells a tale of an Ukraine that, despite all odds, won the great victory it desired. Yet now both old and new enemies are ready to once again challenge their supremacy. How the world goes from here is uncertain. But one thing is certain. War is coming. A second world war is on Sevastopol's doorstep.